Brother, let's start with a question on to sort of contextualize the current events in their proper historical long-term context. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of the Essequibo dispute and what role has imperialism played in creating it?
Yes, it's a complex question that I'm gonna try to summarize the best that I can. But basically, everything started with Venezuela's independence, and as we achieve our independence, mm, we inherited the territory, the map of the Captainy General of Venezuela, which was the Spanish colonial entity that controlled this part of the world, that belonged to the Nueva Granada Viceroyalty. So basically, that map that we inherited from the Spanish um, contained Guyana, Essequibo, and many other territories that we have been losing over the years. And I have to recommend everyone to read two articles that our co-editor Sahili Chowdhury wrote. The names of those articles are Essequibo and Other Border Issues, Venezuela's Territorial Losses to Imperialist expansion. Those articles are on Inogo Tribune and are great articles that explain. It, I mean, I haven't read anything better than that, even in Spanish. So she made a great job, explaining the whole historical context. But going back to the map, that map stipulated that everything east of the Essequibo River belonged to Venezuela, and and the fact is that at some point by the end of the 19th century, when the British Empire was losing, yes, that's the first one. The second one is even better, because it goes deep into the current, Guyana, Essequibo territory dispute. But the British Empire began to expand into the region. I'm talking about east of the Essequibo, and the British got there because they managed to get that territory in a negotiation with the Netherlands, that they own what is called right now Suriname. But the British, the Dutch gave the British that part of the Dutch Guyana, as it was called, and mm, basically what the British did was, while we were finishing our independence, and while we were fighting several civil wars that affected us almost half of the 19th century, the last half of the 19th century, the British began to take that territory because they wanted to take the delta of Orinoco, which is which gives access to several land within the continental mass of South America, and and uh, and of course because of gold and natural resources, and that region is plentiful of them. So by the end of the 19th century, the government of Cipriano Castro began to push hard to try to reach an agreement after several incidents with the British, trying to get more territory from Venezuela. So I mean, in 1899, sorry, the we finally managed to push for what is called the 1899 Paris Award, that basically gave that territory to the British, and gave Venezuela some concessions. One of them, which is very important, is that Venezuela did not lose the access, the exit to the Atlantic Ocean through the Orinoco Delta. So, so Venezuela accepted that ruling, But a few decades later, by the end of, I believe that it was in 1949, one of the lawyers that was part of the Paris Arbitration Award, uh, after his death, he left a will, and there was a letter called the Malais Prévost Memorandum, where he explained how the U.S. and the British uh, hicieron una componenda, we say it in Spanish, created this fabrication of a word by making us believe that, especially the US, because, I mean, basically what happened there is that Venezuela was not part of that negotiation because the British consider us that we were under civilized, as you know, white people usually see us up there in the north. So instead of Venezuela having representative in that negotiation in Paris in 1899, the U.S. was allegedly our representative. So they had two judges in that negotiation. There were two British judges, and there was another one that was a Russian one that was clearly biased towards the British. So anyway, the decision was fabricated, was agreed just to solve the geostrategic interest and colonialist imperialist interest of the US and the UK, and we did nothing. But when the Malais Prévost Memorandum, uh, was unveiled, Venezuelan governments began to demand some, corrections, some rectification, and that happened in around in the 50s of the 20th century, and during the government of our last dictator, Pere Jimenez. So with Pere Jimenez, we began to push in international forums toward a revision of the Paris Award. So in 1966, we managed to, just a few months before the Guyana got independence from the British, we managed to sign the 1966 Geneva Agreement that stipulates that the conflict, the territorial dispute was, I mean, it first recognized that there was an issue with the Paris Award, because without that, they wouldn't, sign anyone would have signed the 1966 Geneva Agreement. So, and they stipulated that Venezuela and Guyana needed to resolve the issue in a certain period of time that was extendable, and that any decision should pass through the steps defined by the 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 peaceful resolution mechanism of the United Nations. So we in Venezuela agreed to that because that somehow make us, regain the possibility to negotiate that territory. But and for several years, the decision, and the policies of Venezuela around that issue were very, ¿cómo se dice? Erratics.
Erratic, yeah.
So what happened is that, to make the story short, is that by the beginning of the 20th century, oil corporations began to exploit to to explore the territory of Essequibo, Guyana, looking for oil, and they found oil. And in 2015, it was announced the discovery by ExxonMobil, the discovery of big oil, yacimientos, oil, locations in Guyana. And in 2016, the Secretary General of the United Nations decided to send the resolution of the dispute to the International Court of Justice. without the consent of Venezuela, which is a how do you say that in English? Una violación, a violation of the Geneva Agreement, because everything in the Geneva Agreement refers to mutual agreement in everything that happened with the Essequibo territory.